Today we're going to go over some players that I want to see on different teams, and I'm going to try and give you examples of where I would like each player to be and or the scenario of a type of team I would want them to be with. Um, no particular order we're going in. I've got some star caliber players, I've got some not star caliber players in here. Um, and a lot of these are teams that aren't doing so great this season or haven't been doing so great because why would I want someone at the top to change, teams if it's working? So, um first one, kind of one that's been talked about a long time, Trey Young. It just feels like with his time in Atlanta has been running out. He had the good run in 2021 where he got to the conference finals versus the Bucks, where he was looking like the man with him, John Collins, Clint Capella. Um, a lot of it was looking good. But I think that Trey Young just needs to be in a good he needs to be in a good defensive system because right, he's 6 foot. He can't give you much defensively. He's one of the worst defensive players in the league, whether you're using eye tests, whether you're using statistics or advanced numbers or anything. It's just not a good area. It's just not a good defensive player, and the Hawks aren't a good defensive team. Sure, they get like they've got Dyson Daniels, who might be defensive player of the year. Whatever's left of Clint Capella's defense, but even a Kongwu's not the greatest defender. Shea is he's a rookie, so we're not going to put defensive s- uh, liabilities on his head yet, but he just needs to be in a good defensive system where he also has other weapons so where he can pass the ball around too. But and a couple teams that come to mind is the Orlando Magic. I think would be absolutely perfect because the Orlando Magic, their offense sucks. I mean, they've got Paolo, they got Franz, who's they're great players. They've been hurt obviously for parts of this year, but they're not 3-point they're not 3-point shooters. Sure, they can make them, but they're not that's not what they prefer to do. Even the other players on their team, they just don't have 3-point shooting volume. While they might have percentages or they might not shoot horribly from three, they just don't have the volume. And just offense in general, it's just not a great thing. They don't really have a true point guard they love. Like Jalen Suggs has been great for them. They paid him, but Jalen Suggs will play the off guard just as fine as if they especially if they get another guard that will demand the ball or take the ball out of hands where they can just operate better. And I think Trey Young is good for that. This is not the only time I'm going to have the Magic for somebody like this, but the other place I think would be good for the would be good for Trey Young is the Houston Rockets because the Houston Rockets overall is not as great of a defensive team as the Magic, but like some of their pieces, whether it's Tari Eason, Amen Thompson, Jabari Smith, even like Fred Van Vliet and stuff, is good. Now, this would 100% let most of these will be trade. You would have to acquire these players by trade. So, well, if we go back to the Magic real quick, what do they give up? I'm not sure. It would probably be like Anthony Black, Jet Howard. They would have to throw in contract, I would assume. So maybe like KCP would get shipped out the door. Um, Maybe like Wendell Carter too. But if we're talking Rockets, I believe Fred VanVleet is a free agent this offseason, but the Rockets have enough to where they could give up a good player because if they don't want to be able to, pay them or work with them. Now, the Rockets have the luxury of, even though with all their great pieces, how good and young they are, they don't have to make these moves this offseason while some others do. But I think, like, if you give Atlanta like Jalen Green, who I'm a huge fan of Jalen Green, but if you give them like Jalen Green and like, I mean, a couple picks, and then like maybe if you have to throw in another salary filler like Dylan Brooks or something, I think they would accept that. Just because, and I think you should accept that too if they offer, because then you can have Trey Young pair him with a Men Thompson right by his side, and like guys like you'll still have Tari Eason most likely if you don't part ways with Jabari Smith in one way or another, and then you still got Alperen Sengun who could do ball handling and stuff. The only thing is with Amen Thompson and Alperen Sengun who like to have the ball in their hands too. You got to get Trey Young to do some off-ball movement to do something where he's not just standing at the top of, at the logo waiting for the ball to come back to him, which is what he does a lot of in Atlanta when he doesn't have the ball, which isn't rare because Atlanta isn't good. But and not a lot of people take the ball out of his hands unless it's like Dyson Daniels or something like that. But I think Trey Young could thrive in places like that because if they have defensive culture already around them and they just need that one guy or one extra punch, like the Magic do or the Rockets, they need their guy, like their certified all star, their certified number one that they can rely on. Because again, I really don't think Sengun is a number one. So I think Trey Young would be great in some of those places. Next player, Nikola Vucevic. I just talked about in the video yesterday or a couple days ago that the Bulls waited so long to trade guys like Vucevic that his value might not be as crazy as it should be. But Vucevic has had a pretty good season this year, all things considered. So a team like that doesn't need like a crazy defensive center would be great. Like the Warriors are now a little different, which is the team I have written down because obviously they traded for Jimmy Butler. I don't have salary caps right in front of me but like Vucevic ideally wouldn't be too bad when you have two like defensive menaces of Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green on the floor. Because again, the the Warriors just don't have that. And I guess if you are the Warriors, you might want like a center that will give you some defensive presence down low because you are a smaller team. But like they're running Quentin Post at their center. They can run Quentin Post. They can run Nikola Vucevic, who's a better rebounder and just a better player overall than what Quentin Post is. So another team that isn't the Warriors that Vucevic could go to. It's hard because a lot of teams don't necessarily need a center, especially a center of his caliber. Like some teams might need backups or something like that. But I mean, he wouldn't be that bad in Orlando too, because he still gives some floor spacing, which they need. And again, their center position isn't 100% cemented. So another good Memphis, I guess, wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. It takes away a little bit of that defensive identity when he's starting, but I think that he could still be used pretty good decently, in certain places. It just depends on where because, again, sure, he's a center that can stretch the floor, which is a very, like, sought after thing, but he can't really defend like you would want to. So, it might be rough finding a spot for him, but I think he definitely needs to be moved on. This next one is one I don't think a lot of people think about or think should be on the radar, but I think Bam needs to leave. Again, in that same video I was referring to earlier, the Heat are awful. He's not is part of the reason because he hasn't been the same player. He's normally been an all-star the past few years. He's still one of the most versatile defenders we have. His just offensive game hasn't come around as much as we would probably have liked it to. But I think he could be thrown at a power forward or center position, and he will work just fine whether he has the all polished offensive game or not. Um, it's hard. Bam is probably the most valuable person on here, and he obviously has a big contract like the other two. These teams are all super unlikely, but it would be something to see him in those jerseys, like places like the Buck. I think if you put Bam on the Bucks next to Giannis defensively, especially like with the mindset of moving on from Brook Lopez, that defense gets so much more better. You can switch so much more easily on a pick and rolls. And Bam is one of the most versatile defenders we've seen. So another thing just like that is the Grizzlies. You put Bam and Jaren in a front court together. It's gonna be it would be so crazy. Even with the Mavericks would be great. The Pelicans would be great. Now all these teams are super unlikely. They're all pretty much super expensive teams. I don't think it could happen even if they wanted it to, but it any team would want Bam. So like there's some teams that wouldn't want Vucevic. There's some teams that wouldn't need what Trey Young does. Bam could go to any team and any team would welcome him. It would just these are just the teams that I think like if he was there, it would be so like it would bring those teams to another level. So it just would cost a lot to acquire him in a trade, which is the unfortunate part. So next we have a lot of the Wizards team, the Washington Wizards team. The main guys I'm referring to is Marcus Smart, Malcolm Brogdon, and Jordan Poole. Again, the Wizards traded guys like Valanciunas and stuff, which is good. They got him to, Val went to the Kings, and got him off so guys like Alex Sarr could play more and take that for sure starting spot. But they can all contribute on winning teams to a different level. We've seen it with all of them contributing. Um, while Smart and Brogdon didn't win the finals, they were on that 22 Boston team that went to the finals versus Jordan Poole, Steph Curry, and the Warriors. And right, they were they lost the finals in six, but they were still super super, good on that team. Marcus Smart won Defensive Player of the Year that year, the first guard since like Gary Payton or Michael Jordan to win it. Um, Malcolm Brogdon was like the super. He won Sixth Man of the Year. It might have been the next year. I'm not sure. I think he won Sixth Man of the Year the next year for Boston, but still like they can like so people like Poole obviously he's different while he's not the defensive person that Smart is or anything like or even what Brogdon is. Poole is a he could be he can be a 20-point machine. He can give other teams scoring punches. I think some teams that would be good for him is Orlando. Orlando, a similar way that I said with Trey Young, but Jordan Poole doesn't require the ball or demand the ball as much as Trey Young does. So you can still have Paolo and Franz rock out, but while still having a like 3-point volume shooter like Jordan Poole, who we know loves taking the threes. So I think that's a good thing, and then I think team that wouldn't be the worst thing, even though it would worse in defense is Detroit. Detroit, with Jay Ivey going down, there really hasn't been much ball handling outside of Cade Cunningham. And maybe that's not a bad thing because look at what the Detroit Pistons are doing this year. And Cunningham is getting triple doubles, double assists all the time. So maybe it's not the worst thing, but I think it could add more spacing, which is what we know the Pistons lacked last year and years before, and are much better with this year. But it also gives someone that can control the second unit when Cade's on the floor, or play right alongside him because Jordan Poole can play off ball just fine. I know we haven't seen it a lot from Cade, but I trust Cade that he can, being a bigger guard. So, but while guys like Smart and Brogdon, I mean, I don't have a specific spot for them because they can really go to any team, I think, that needs an off guard or can be like a sixth man role, just where they could play, 20-25 minutes a night, be one of the few players off the bench in a playoff series and a guy you really rely on. Because while Smart has had a rough time since he's been traded from Boston, whether he was, battling injuries on Memphis or now like rotting in Washington. He's still a good defender. Again, he's never the scorer that you maybe would want, but I mean, he can handle playmaking duties. He can make some outside shots. He's pretty streaky. So, and then Malcolm Brogdon, he's reliable. There's not too much to say. He's not a horrid defender. Um, he can play make. He can shoot. He can drive. So again, I think they both could just go anywhere where they could be, the secondary guard or be a six man. Because I mean, you probably don't want any of them to be your lead guard in 2025, but I think they'll complement anywhere that needs like a secondary guy. Like they could go to Detroit too, and I don't think it would be that bad, especially Malcolm Brogdon. So um another one that's pretty obvious is Kevin Durant. I mean, we know Durant. Brian Windhorst has said that he is pretty much gone after this season, or is looking to be gone after this season. We saw that he was put in a trade at the trade deadline, but he was like, "Nah, I don't want to pack. I don't want to pack it all up during the trade deadline and All Star break and move somewhere else." So, but he just needs to be on a structured team that doesn't have players just thrown together, which is I kind of think what the Suns turned into by when you acquired Bradley Beal. And I mean, Devin Booker was already there, but like they're all guys that want the ball to get to their spots. And that just isn't this is not how you win games that we can see. It's not all about just having star-studded names. You got to have the players around them. And while they've seen glimpses of like Bull, even rookie Ryan Dunn has been better than what I thought he would be. Um, it's just not. He just needs a structure around him, and I think that's the problem. A lot of people look at Durant and say he can't lead a team. He can't be the best player on the team. If you ask me, he was the best player on the Warriors teams. Now, granted, he had another guy that was pretty much the same caliber and like three other All Stars. So it doesn't really matter if he was the best or not on that team. But I mean, we saw him with Brooklyn. He was the best player. They had a little bit more structure to me, having a guy like Kyrie as a secondary guy and having guys that fit like Joe Harris. I mean, even whatever was left of like DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin, I guess, and even young Jared Allen. But like, he just needs to have structure. And I think that that's where he'll thrive. I don't think he needs to be the second best player because if he is, then that's great. They're probably going to be a great team. But he can be a first option, he just needs to have a structured team around him that fits, and I don't think he's had that too much since he left, um, Golden State. Because again, even though I say Brooklyn was better than, what Phoenix is, it's not like it's drastic, so, Durant just he needs to be in a different, jersey. The Suns just isn't it, for what I think that obviously he wants to end his career on, so, um the Portland Trailblazers is pretty similar to what I said with the Washington Wizards. They have a bunch of players that could be moved and probably shouldn't be on the team. Anthony Simons is in a similar boat to like Jordan Poole. I have similar player teams like the Magic, Pistons, and Rockets. Just literally the same things I said about Jordan Poole. I do think Jordan Poole's a little bit better, but I think Simons makes less money, so you have that going for you if you wanted to acquire him over a Pool, for example. Robert Williams, I think, should go to a spot where he can be a backup center. He is definitely a starter center caliber, as we saw with Boston. But knowing his injury history, I don't know how many teams would want to take risks on just having him be your starting center or your best center on the roster. I mean, he can go to literally any team, I think, and be good. Because I don't believe he makes a lot of money. I can check that, but some of the teams I had, like I think all the top teams would want him, like Bucks, Cavs, Celtics, because he can be a backup center, and he doesn't has to start in pretty much any of those places, even though he could in Milwaukee. Um, let's see, his contract is he's making 12 million and 13 million next year. So he's not demanding a lot of money for the next 2 years. Other teams that could like Spurs, he could back up Wemby and be just fine. The Pelicans, the Suns, Warriors, Nuggets, anything like that. Because again, his contract isn't that big, so he can go to a lot of different places. So, and I want to see Rob get back to playing some meaningful basketball, even though you know his injuries kind of drag him down. But Robert Williams, one of the most exciting centers to watch when he is fully healthy and fully engaged with a team. So another guy, Jeremy Grant, similar boat to like Anthony Simons. He just kind of, I think he just needs to get off the team so guys like Shane Sharp can start and other guys like that. And we've seen Denny Avdia has been rocking out just fine. So, places that I think Grant could go anywhere where teams that need a bigger wing, like San Antonio, the Bucks, the Grizzlies, the Lakers, the Suns, any like teams that just the thing is his contract is big. He's like over 30, I believe, million for a long time. But he can play meaningful basketball too, and he's a good big wing to have. He can defend, he can score a little bit. We saw in Detroit where he was pretty much the number one option. He had a great season. He's still a good player. It's just the contract attached to his name. And the last player that I wrote down, I mean, I don't DeAndre Ayton, I guess, sorta. I mean, he could get out of there so Klingon can start, but Klingon isn't one of those guys that's going to be playing like 35 minutes every single night. So I guess it's not the biggest thing if Ayton's still on this team because again, his contract is big, and I have no clue where a team would what team would want him because he's like more of a finesse big. He's not a great shooter for a center. He's not a great defender either. So I don't really know what I'm you know what, let's see what his contract is because I'm intrigued to see what his next contract will look like whenever he does enter free agency. Um let's see. DeAndre Ayton. His current contract. He's making 34 million this year, 35 million next year. So my assumption is that he's not going to get traded and he's just going to be on this team until he becomes a free agent after next year. Um, and I don't know what you do. I mean, maybe you resign him if he wants a lot less money, but he's not. I don't think he's really a starting center anywhere else in this league, unless he's on another really bad team. But his services just isn't really what teams are looking for anymore in a center. Because if you're not going to be a power big, like I'm going to dunk on you and drop step you, then you got to be able to shoot like a Vucevic, like a Porzingis, like a Cat or something. And again, these are all players that are better than him, but like 18% from three. I mean, he's only played 40 games, but 18% from three. I mean, he takes less than one a game. Like, so it's not really his style of play, but he's not the prototypical center. I mean, 14 points, 10 rebounds, a block, but for someone that was a former first overall pick, I guess you would just like to see more out of him than what you do. And then my last player I have is Keontae George. Keontae George has really like lost his starting spot in Utah, which is crazy because Keontae George I thought had such a great first season for what he was. I mean, 13, 4 assists, and he's pretty much lost his starting spot to a rookie who I don't think is as good as him and Isaiah Collier. Even though Collier seems like he's a great assist guy too. Um, he's kind of just been taken over, and I think Keontae George could really be could be a decent guard again. Is he going to go to like I don't even know, like one of the top teams and be the lead ball handler on a championship caliber team? No, but I think he could go somewhere where again the guard position is kind of wide open at one of these other bottom places and just he could be good. I mean, again, that's not really a lot of places anymore, but like if he goes to Brooklyn, I think he would start Brooklyn. I mean, there's just areas where it's just surprising to me that he doesn't start after only being in his second year, and I thought he had such a good first year for what he was probably expected to do. But those are all the players I have. Again, that doesn't mean that other players shouldn't be traded. This definitely isn't me predicting who will be traded because I can't imagine a lot of these people will be moved. Because a lot of them are harder to move through trades, but it's just some of the players that I think it would be good for them to get in a newer area. And again, the last Keontae George one might just be me overreacting a little. He's only a second year player. He hasn't proven too much, but it's just surprising to me that he isn't always starting over there. So yeah, those are all my players that I think they need to move on.